Let's see. Why do African brands slash designers have to be influenced by their heritage and culture, but Western brands slash designers can just design? It's like they are trying to put African designers in a box. So I think it depends. I think some African brands are inspired by what's going on around them and their own heritage, and they use their cultural dress. They infuse that into their brand. But not every African brand is like that, to be fair. There are as many brands that just design as there are the cultural ones. I guess people's mind frame. They just assume African brands, African print. Like most African brands don't even look like that. Like even if they are inspired, like one of my favorite brands, let me put it on the screen. I'll show you guys a few actually. I'll show you guys some Nigerian brands that I really love, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Like not every single brand from these places is like African print and stuff. Okay, so this first brand is Lagos-based Program. I talk about this brand a lot. They featured in the first issue of my magazine. One of the major concepts of this brand is looking at Yoruba culture, which is a tribe in Nigeria, and kind of the heritage of the Yoruba culture and the practices of the culture, and infusing these ideas into clothing. So there are aspects of it that are very Nigerian, like the fact that they use indigo dyes, which is a very, West African technique that people use. They also have a lot of indigo dyeing in places like South Africa, all that sort of stuff. That is very African, but the silhouettes aren't, they're kind of African inspired, but when you look at them, you don't think Africa. You know what I mean? And most brands are like this. Most brands are not, just out here doing African print. So even though the silhouette, the concept is very much informed by Nigerian culture and fashion, there are many amazing designers that have a way of infusing that into clothing that, can be worn by anyone and worn anywhere, and people don't just look at it and think Africa as a first thing. Like look at some of these clothes, for example. So this is a brand that I really love. Another brand that I'm a big fan of is Tokyo James. Tokyo James is another designer that, of course, a lot of the clothing is influenced by Nigeria, and a lot of the references are to Nigerian culture. For example, one of the hero pieces of Tokyo James is using beads. These are the pieces that everyone loves. Now, these are inspired by, there's a tribe in Nigeria called the Edo tribe, and their cultural dress, they normally have like certain beads. You know what? Let me put it on the screen since we're doing a Q&A kind of educational thing. Let me just show you guys what this stuff looks like. So this is what it normally looks like, right? So these are the kind of beads that they use. They kind of look like this, really extravagant. I love the way that some of the designs are. So what Tokyo James has done is he's taken this idea and kind of made it more commercial, more palatable to, a wider audience. So he will do like a dress, and then the beading is at the front of the dress. Or there was a piece of denim that Tokyo James did that went crazy online. I'm trying to see if you can see it anywhere here. It should be somewhere around here. I know it was like a very recent collection where it's kind of like beaded denim. But that was something that was really big, even like a dress like this with the two beads. You can see the necklace also. So I say all of this to say that there are ways to, infuse your African, like, okay, even in these shorts, for example, you have the beading once again. So there are ways to incorporate African heritage and style without things looking so obviously and stereotypically African. So I think it comes down to the fashion that you're looking at and how you view fashion. I think there are as many brands that do the cultural thing as there are brands that do we're going to infuse our heritage into the clothing, but also have it in a seamless way where you don't even notice type of thing. Yeah, Tolu Coker is amazing, by the way. Let me put Tolu Coker's Instagram on the screen. Her last show, I think it was at London Fashion Week, right? If I'm not mistaken. It was really, really good. Really good. I would love to start talking about more different brands starting, next runway season. But yeah, this is Tolu Coker's most recent collection, which I was a big fan of, absolutely loved it. So yeah, you still get the African sort of maximalism going on there, but it's not so obviously this is a Nigerian designer inspired by Nigeria. Do you know what I mean? So I think it just depends. Like I was saying earlier, it really just depends where you look. It honestly just depends. Bored Black Sheep says, please could you write the name of the brands in the description when you have the time? I'm the worst at English spelling due to it not being my first language and I never find them. Okay, so I'll start with Lagos Space Program. That was the first brand I mentioned. Put that in the chat. Tokyo James. Obviously, these things are on the screen, but I'll still type them in the chat just in case. Tolu Coker is another brand that was mentioned. We also talked about Kane and Amia, so I'm going to type that in the chat. Kane and Amia. Who else did we mention? Anrilige. Yeah, Anrilige. That was one of my other favorite Japanese brands. So there you go, Bored Black Sheep. The more black designers there are, the more I realize how much I love a black perspective on luxury. I really like Nicholas Daly. I love Nicholas Daly too. Nicholas Daly is really cool. Really, really cool. Oh yeah, I'm really behind on the comments it seems, but you guys are talking about Tokyo James on the beading. So let me show you something about the beading, by the way, because in Tokyo James's last runway collection, he had a collaboration with Uggs, and there are these Uggs that I really want. They have like his signature beads on them. Let me see if I can find them because they're in his last collection. Yeah, so there you go. They're like Uggs clogs with his signature beading. I really want those so bad. So bad. Like, I really want those. And there were different colorways. There was an all black colorway. Let's see if we can find it. That was really, yeah. So this is the all black colorway. I really want those. And I love when collabs, you know, you can see a designer's design language very much in a collab. Because sometimes it just feels like, do you guys remember the Prada Adidas collab? That horrible collab. Sometimes it just feels like a name. And that's it. How do fashion designers end up with similar looks causing a trend? Is it manufactured beforehand? Because it can't all be a coincidence, right? Yeah, so how it happens is a lot of brands use the same trend forecasting software. So because a lot of brands use a lot of the trend forecasting software, they kind of jump to the same conclusions. They kind of end up using similar colors because they talk to the same trend forecasters. So that's how brands end up designing similar things. That's why brands that are more unique don't use trend forecasting software and they're not on those platforms. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.